Hi! So today we're gonna talk about concision, and this is gonna help you in the SAT writing portion. So, concision. What is concision? Concision is saying the same thing in fewer words, and a lot of times we think that the more complex something sounds or the more complicated the words, the more wordy, the smarter we sound. But happily, that is not the truth. The truth is, in order to say things effectively and eloquently, you have to be concise. And we've somehow been trained to think the opposite because, for example, in school, you want to reach a certain word count, so you decide to say more words in order to reach that word count. Whenever you can say something briefly, you should choose that path. The SAT tests your ability to say things concisely. So I just wanted to show you a few examples from practice test 1 and practice test 3, where the SAT gives you an opportunity to be concise. So, okay, here's example number 1. So question 8. When a plant in Seattle, Washington was redesigned for more natural light, the company was able to enjoy annual electricity cost reductions of $500,000 each year. So, without even looking at the possible answer choices, you should notice that it already says annual electricity cost reductions. So, if it's annual, we know that it happens every year, and there's no need to repeat that information. So most likely the answer won't have that repetition. So all options A, B, and C give you the option to say every year, per year, or each year. But in reality, we said you don't need that. So the best answer is the shortest one. Less is more. D is correct. Shorter is better. Remember that. Another question. So question 21, so if you go over here where it says 3, that's where it starts. So the pattern box observed in 2012 or 2012 may repeat itself again. It repeats itself again. So I hope you caught on to that mistake, because if something repeats itself, of course it happens again. So at some point, hopefully you're gonna start seeing these questions and have a little laugh to the side so that no one hears and no one gets distracted. But these questions are actually a bit funny because they're so redundant. So here again, shorter is better. Itself, B, would give you the most efficient, effective, concise response. Anything else? Well, of course, when you pick an answer, make sure that the sentence still sounds okay and makes sense grammatically. So the pattern box observed in 2012 may repeat itself with harmful effects on the Arctic ecosystem. Beautiful. You just turned something redundant and annoying into something readable and better. Next up, question 39. So these questions, classic SAT concision questions when they ask you to combine the sentences at the underlined portion. So what they're really asking is, how can we turn the underlined portion into one sentence without changing the sentence's meaning and making it as concise as possible. So this sentence says, also, studies have found that those students who major in philosophy often do better than students from other majors in both verbal reasoning and analytical writing. These results can be measured by standardized test scores. Okay, you might be able to avoid using these results because these results were already mentioned in the previous sentence. So let's start by checking whether the shortest answer, which is likely the most concise, works. So studies have found that those students who major in philosophy do better than students from other majors in both verbal reasoning and analytical writing, as measured by standardized test scores. Does that work? I think it does. And also, so the B and D both mention these results. That's just redundant. So if we're left with A and C, let's try C. Studies have found that those students who major in philosophy often do better than students from other majors in both verbal reasoning and analytical writing, which can also be measured by standardized test scores. By adding also, you're saying in addition to something, but there should be another way to measure those standardized test scores in order to add the also. So that's not gonna work. So here again, we see an example of shorter is better or concision rules. Next up, question 18. So it says, response to the advertisement was overwhelming, even tremendous, and Harvey soon replaced the male servers with women. Okay, great. So overwhelming, even tremendous. So when something is overwhelming, it is tremendous already. And I don't think we really want to create that emphasis here because overwhelming is already emphasis enough. So I would say the prediction for an answer would be any answer that doesn't include tremendous or that only includes overwhelming or tremendous, but not both. So let's go with the shortest one first, which is B. So response to the advertisement was overwhelming. So quick, that was the right answer. And if we double check with the others, C says overwhelming, even tremendous. D says overwhelming, even tremendous. And A also says overwhelming, even tremendous. So they're redundant. And then if you check them, some of them also sound weird or not grammatically correct. And finally, so this one is more, it's not a trick question, but the idea of concision also applies. So the question says, which choice most logically follows the previous sentence? So in this case, we must read the previous sentence, otherwise how will we know what should come after it? So let's read. In return for the server's work, the position paid quite well for the time. $17.50 a month plus tips, meals, room and board, laundry service, and travel expenses. So what is this sentence saying? Basically that servers gained great benefits from working for Harvey. So here we just get a list of benefits. So hopefully there's an option that continues that idea of benefits. So let's go one by one. The growth of Harvey's business coincided with the expansion of the Santa Fe Railway, which served large sections of the American West. This one doesn't A, talk about the Harvey girls, so it doesn't talk about the servers' work, and it doesn't talk about their benefits, so very off. B says Harvey would end up opening dozens of restaurants and dining cars plus 15 hotels over his lucrative career. So again, this one's talking about the boss, this one's talking about Harvey, not the servers' work or their benefits. So doesn't logically follow from the previous sentence. So we have two options, C or D. C already starts looking good because it starts with these benefits. So that immediately connects to the previous sentence. These benefits enabled the Harvey girls are mentioned, to save money and build new and exciting lives for themselves in the so-called Wild West. Okay, I really like this answer, but maybe D is better, so let's read D. The compensation, so benefits, was considered excellent at the time, though it may not seem like much money by today's standards. Okay, so this is an answer that sounds right, but isn't right because of the idea of concision and redundancy. So here, in the sentence in the text, it already says that the position paid quite well for the time. So we already know that for the time, 17.50 a month was really good, even though it doesn't sound like a lot um, by today's standards. But the text already says it. So why would you spend 3 lines saying was considered excellent at the time, though it may not seem like much money by today's standards? That's just horribly redundant. So we can eliminate this one just just because of how redundant it is. And this one, we liked it because benefits Harvey Girls, so it adds on to the talk of benefits and servers work in the previous sentence. So that's all I have for today. But I hope so. You should know the SAT writing section always comes with a few of these questions. So this is really good to know, and it's easy to remember. Shorter is better, but always check that the sentence still makes sense grammatically. But always, this is, you should have, when you're taking the writing test, there should be a little voice in your head that's telling you, shorter is better, shorter is better, shorter is better. So keep that in mind. And hopefully this helps. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.